Greetings from London. On October 15th, I will return to campaign in person for U.S. Senator candidate of the D.C. Statehood Green Party. I applaud D.C. for democracy for championing D.C. statehood and a just D.C. tax structure and budget. Most of you likely know me as an activist and previous candidate of my party. I have campaigned for D.C. statehood since joining the party 36 years ago, focusing the last decade on tax and budget issues. I was the initiator, co-editor of the report on the state of human rights in the district, which assessed the record of our local government since D.C. declared itself a human rights city 4 years ago. This report confirmed that our local government has disempowered the D.C. statehood movement by not pushing the limits of what is possible under home rule, such as creating a progressive tax structure that's more capable of meeting the needs of a majority of our residents, many of whom live below self-sufficiency income levels in a city with near record high income inequality and child poverty rates. Here's my agenda upon taking office as U.S. Senator to achieve D.C. statehood. I will work to establish a publicly owned and accountable D.C. bank that would deposit district dollars instead of investing them in Wall Street, and in partnership with local financial institutions promote jobs, sustainable local businesses, and affordable housing, thereby establishing D.C. sovereignty. 2, I will work to create a grassroots mass movement of our own residents, supported with solidarity from our region by convening city town hall meetings to bring together activists and residents. 3, I will work to energize the more than 200,000 members of the Green Party of the United States who stand for D.C. statehood and global Greens to support this program. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. And now I'd like to ask our candidates present tonight to make opening statements of 1 minute each, and we'll begin with Shadow Senator Michael D. Brown.
Well, first let me say thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for DC, to DC for Democracy for setting this up. My name is Michael Brown. I think most of you know me. I've been your United States Senator for the past 6 years. I hope I get a chance to tell you some of the things I've done while I've been in office. But primarily what's happened since I've been in office is we've changed the debate. And I think this is very important. When I took office, there was a thing called the DC Voting Rights Act. That failed. We have now moved on to statehood, and statehood is where we need to be. Statehood is the only way that the people of the District of Columbia can become equal. It's very simple. The Supreme Court decided in 1954 that you can't have separate but equal. And if you're going to be part of the United States and you're going to be equal, you need to be one of the United States. This is one of the reasons that President Obama has said about me that even without a vote, I've always been an effective advocate for the citizens of D.C. Thanks.
I'm Nelson Ryman Snyder. I'm a 40-year resident of the District of Columbia. I've been working on representation and voting rights for the district since I was in high school in Pennsylvania when I lobbied the legislature for passage of the 23rd Amendment. Pennsylvania was the 23rd state to approve the 23rd Amendment to give us the right to vote for president. The issue of statehood cannot be achieved by legislation. It must be done by constitutional amendment. I have an 8-page opinion by Attorney General Robert Kennedy to that effect, and I have 7 other Attorney General opinions to that effect, because it involves shrinking the size of the District of Columbia. And you cannot do that. It says it's the permanent seat. And actually what was done with Alexandria was unconstitutional. And there were various opinions of Attorney Generals to that effect also. So if we're going to go for statehood, it must be by constitutional amendment.
Okay, first question. I'll ask Mr. Ryman Schneider to go first. Following the Democratic and Republican National Convention, our local media seem to agree that D.C. residents can expect no support for statehood from either political party. Do you agree?
Yes, I do, and I would ask the gentleman here, my opponent, Michael Brown, why in 6 years he has not been able to get one Democrat in the Senate to introduce a statehood bill, because the national Democratic leadership does not support statehood. They just don't. And that's a fact. Neither does the Republican Party. That's a fact. And we must approach getting our rights incrementally and see bipartisan support. And I'd like to do that by getting us to be in parity with the territories in Puerto Rico. And so my basic platform is we not pay federal income tax until we're represented in some way in Congress. There are bills in to do that. Eleanor Holmes Norton introduced bills twice to do this. She was able to get 130 Democratic co-sponsors, including the entire Democratic leadership. Now there's a Republican bill in to do this, and Eleanor's against it. So where are we going? Nowhere.
Senator Brown?
Well, first of all, that's ridiculous. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party are nowhere near each other on this issue. The Republicans actually put into their platform that they would stand against statehood for the District of Columbia or any rights. This is what their presidential candidate is running on right now, against the District of Columbia. The Democrats, on the other hand, asked for budget autonomy, they asked for representation in the Senate, they asked for representation in the House, and they asked for legal autonomy. So we're not on the same page. As far as statehood goes, Nelson's wrong. All it takes is a simple majority vote in Congress to make us a state. In addition to that, coupling with Puerto Rico may be a good idea, but they have some other issues that we don't have. And by the way, if it's unconstitutional to give Alexandria back to Virginia, they've kept it for 150 years, so I think we could deal with that.
Okay, second question. And I'll ask Senator Brown to go first on this. Representative Louis Gohmert, great champion of DC residents, has introduced a bill to exempt DC income from federal taxes. If enacted, how would it change our struggle for equal citizenship?
Well, I don't think we should sell off our franchise. And anybody that knows Mr. Gohmert, Representative Gohmert, knows that he's not a friend of the District of Columbia. In fact, last year when we went before his committee, Maxine Waters of California, after he made the suggestion that every military base in America get a congressman if the District of Columbia gets one, Maxine Waters stood up and said, "This is so damn stupid that I can't sit here and listen to it anymore," and walked out. So Representative Gohmert is not our friend. Nelson's right that this has been introduced before, but the franchise is not for sale. We're never going to get America to agree that we should not pay our $3.5 billion in federal taxes. So what it amounts to is a red herring. It's been thrown out there to derail us.
Okay, one last question.
Well, I don't think Nelson had a chance
I'm
to
sorry,
answer that.
Nelson, go ahead.
Yes, Louis Gohmert has not always been our friend. But you know, when the amendment went through to give us 2 votes, to amend the Constitution to give us 2 votes in the Senate and representation, there were Southern senators who had never supported voting rights, and in all those years voted for it and got it through. We have to find our allies where they are and when they're there. And Louis Gohmert right now is our ally. He's saying we have a legitimate grievance. We are taxed without our consent, and we should not be paying federal income tax until Congress finds the will and the means to give us voting members of Congress.
Okay, now, final question for the 2 shadow senator candidates. The movement for DC rights has long been compromised by internal divisions. As senator, what will you do to unify it?
Me? Well, I can tell you that I've started to do that from the day that I took office. People in DC for Democracy know me. The people in the state committee know me. The people at DC Vote know me because I try to work to build a coalition. And our problem is that the divisiveness has come in because we have separated our opinions on what our specific course of action should be. The divisiveness should be over now because statehood is the course of action. This is what we need to do. It's the only thing that brings us equality. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push statehood. That's what I did in North Carolina at the Democratic Convention when I put up billboards asking for statehood for the District of Columbia. That's what I did when I created a nonprofit to teach children about statehood all across America. That's what I will continue to do, because statehood is what makes us equal. It's the only thing that makes us equal.
Yes, I think I've been campaigning around the city, and I find universal support for this idea that we not pay federal income tax until Congress rectifies the situation with our voting rights. When Jesse Jackson ran for this seat in 1990, that was his platform. If he had stayed here instead of running back to Chicago, we might be somewhere today. I think this is something we can unite behind. And I wish the Washington Post would do a poll on it. I think it would be overwhelming support. And they could do one on statehood too, and I don't think it would do as well. Only 51% of the people voted for the statehood constitution. 51%. 53. Okay. You have to have 80 or 90% support to become a state. We don't have that here. Nothing like it.
Okay, that concludes the shadow senators portion of the evening. Why don't we give a round of applause for both the shadow